It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 476. Tonight I'm joined by Kodra.
Hello.
And Tam.
Hello.
Wow, that was a short intro.
Yeah, tiny show today.
Yeah, so like we had to call last week because I'm the person that records and the person who edits, and we had a crazy weather pattern going through the center of the country. And that storm cell produced over 100 tornadoes. So yeah, like there was a town here in Oklahoma that just basically got deleted. Thankfully, it didn't hit anywhere near me. But it was one of those evenings where I spent the entire night watching the skies, and it was like the fourth of those in a row. So it was a crazy little sleep week. But this week, we happen to be just short everybody but Tam, Kodra, and I. So we're going to make a show happen.
Sure are.
Because it would feel real weird to call off 2 nights in a row or 2 weeks in a row. So Helldivers right now is being review bombed.
Oh my
Is
god.
it?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we...
So, I mean, I'm going to put myself out there and be like, literally everybody involved. Well, okay. Everybody here except Arrowhead Studios, frankly, is dumb.
Okay.
Like, the reason it's happening is dumb. The people who are mad about it, frankly, okay, backing up. Since Helldivers 2's launch, they have had a thing pop up at the start of the game and have been pretty straightforward about, this is a Sony game. We're going to have you connect to the, your Sony account to this game. Helldivers 2 had a rocky start, especially when it came to network connectivity, and waived that linkage requirement so that people could more easily get into the game.
Oh.
They've long since fixed it. And my guess is they're getting pressure from Sony Publishing to put that bit back in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Helldivers 2 is a game published by Sony, operating on Sony servers. Sony needs something to moderate with. And Sony can't Steam ban you. Like, that's not a thing that works. You can I guess they could send an email requesting that Steam ban somebody, but
oh, okay.
That is not how you do moderation.
No.
So yeah,
and the other side of this is you took my money 3 months ago and have been allowing me to play just fine. Why are you being all weird about it now?
Yeah. Despite,
Yeah. But despite there being that message being in there since the beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I actually think I did have to link my Sony account.
Yeah, I did. Because it's actually a kind of convoluted process to not.
Oh, okay.
So a handful of people are super mad about it and review bombing the hell out of Sony or out of Helldivers.
Yeah.
It's brigading. But also I would say that there is a group of people with a legitimate grievance here who are people who play the game, who have been playing the game from countries where Sony does not have account support.
Yes. And that's the piece that feels valid, is Steam serves a lot more countries than Sony does.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Arrowhead's already weighed in on that one. They're they're basically oh shit, we're kind of not a big dev. We didn't realize that there was that much of a discrepancy. We're going to do something about it. Because frankly, this is a dev studio that's had the best dev player communication of anybody I've ever seen, bar possibly the Stardew Valley guy. It was 6 hours, and they were like, oh yeah, we didn't realize that, because frankly, as somebody who has done this, it's hard. it is hard to know what countries are supported by what platforms because it's not like it's listed anywhere. It's not like, oh, I've got the Steam setup dashboard on the back end of my video game, so I can just see all of the countries that are supported in a list. Like, no, that ain't how it works at all.
Yeah, and the other piece of this that's kind of bad is Sony has been a little bit draconian about their accounts in the past and currently, to where sure you could in theory create a North American Sony account and bind it to your Steam account, but they have specifically gone after people who have done this thing in the past in order to play games outside of the countries that they support.
Yeah.
And done, Sony account bans for them. So like basically all of Africa minus South Africa can't play the game. Like large swaths of, Spanish speaking countries can't play the game.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a whole thing.
It is a bad situation. And I feel for the devs because like they took the Sony money and now they're beholden.
I mean, the game probably wouldn't exist without the Sony money.
Right.
But like, but yeah, like it's like I was saying, everybody involved except Arrowhead is basically Arrowhead, and like it's not even the people who are in, for the most part, it's not even the people who are in the other countries who are the ones brigading here. Like they're like, oh yeah, that's just a thing that happens with video games. We're used to it. Like it sucks, but that's regions for you.
Yeah, I mean,
we enjoyed it while we could.
I kind of feel like most of the folks brigading are the quote unquote PC Master Race bros that don't want to sully their name with a Sony account.
Yeah, or just people who are I mean, honestly, like my take is it's not exactly manufactured outrage. It's just there are enough reasons in the world right now to be outraged.
Mm-hmm.
And many of them are complicated and hard to express. So people are having disproportionate venting reactions to things that would otherwise be minor nuisances. I was reading a thing somewhere that like people just like going off on telemarketers is up like 1,000% or something.
I have to imagine that. Yeah, I don't know. I have had less patience with telemarketers, but I mostly just hang up at this.
Yeah,
point.
that's what I do too. I just hang up.
Yeah.
I don't say anything. I just hang up. Now, the ones I am kind of merciless on are the door-to-door people.
Oh, I could not possibly. That's way too real. I am not that confrontational.
There's a bunch of scammers that have been, targeting our neighborhood, and every couple weeks there's I feel bad because it's like just a college kid being asked to go door to door to sell this scam. But
there are physical in-person door-to-door scammers.
Yes.
Wild.
The entire solar panel industry right now are mostly scammers. At least the door-to-door folks. Yeah, like the thing that they claim that they're working with your power company.
Oh yeah.
To get you solar panels.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Anyway, like it's just a bad situation. Like this one feels like there's like I feel real bad for the dev folks that are watching the review scores on Steam plummet right now. But like nothing that they can do about it.
Yeah.
Now the Tarkov folks, on the other hand, they probably deserve all the ire that they've gained from their community this week.
I didn't know that there's a Tarkov thing going on.
Yeah, so for ages there's been $150 edition of the game that is like, well, the game is still in beta, quote unquote, and has been for years. But there's a $150 version of the game that claims that it gives you all DLC for eternity, basically.
I don't think they call it DLC. Oh, well, no. You go on. Yeah.
The specific version calls DLC. Now they're adding a game mode and saying it's not DLC, and also adding a bunch of pseudo pay to win features to a new penultimate version of the game for $200. So yeah, like there's just a shitstorm from that community right now.
Yes, they're claiming that this new feature is a additional feature and should not be considered DLC, which does not make sense.
Yeah. It's just there's quite a few bad PR things going on right now.
I know about this one because of Checkpoint.
Yep. Like I had heard about it before Checkpoint, but like Checkpoint drove me to research it further, and yeah, it's a little nuts. Not that I play Tarkov, but like this is kind of like the Overwatch thing because the game mode that they added in is a PvE game mode.
Yes.
But they're now charging $200 for the privilege to play that PvE game mode. Because it was originally only going to be available to people who pay this $200 version.
Lord.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if I was going to play Tarkov, I would probably want to play that, but I don't think I want to play Tarkov $200.
I don't think so either. Like, I'm not that interested.
Maybe they got the value proposition right because Trammel is that good.
I mean, the problem is that you didn't have to pay more to play Trammel. Like, for $200, I could buy 2 other great video games and a big cake for myself.
Yeah, it's definitely true. That seems like a ridiculous amount of money because I don't think I would buy Tarkov normally.
Yeah, I don't own Tarkov. That should say something, considering I try lots of different things.
Yeah, I have tried Tarkov, but I'm not gonna give them $200.
Like I played Arma, and that was enough of it for me.
I was about to say
I don't need more of that.
I like all of these always PvP on, like PvE, but PvP is always on games. Nah.
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves is not going to charge me extra to play without PvP, so I'll do that instead. I'll play the good version of Sea of Thieves.
So another wild happening this week is there was a frantic patch today in Path of Exile because a ridiculous bug made it into the game. And the thing is like, this has probably been in for over a month since the launch of this league. Like, this is not a new patch problem. It's just no one in their right mind would have done the thing that they were trying to do until somebody found out it was bugged. So, like I talked about a few weeks ago, that there is a specific Einhar catchable beast called the Black Morrigan from Affliction League. And there's a pattern that you can get if you've captured one of these that like automatically 6 links an item. Like, so if an item has 6 sockets, it will just make sure they're all linked, and it's sweet. And that is the correct usage of that thing. However, there's another pattern that you can, Beastcraft pattern that you can do that gives an item 6 sockets, but also it's real cheap to 6 socket anything. So no one would have done that thing, but apparently somebody did. And I don't know if it was just out of sheer laziness and they had plenty of these Black Morgans. I mean, so they might as well like burn one to 6 socket it and burn one to 6 link it.
Black Morgans got cheap, right?
Yeah, they were like, I mean, I've seen like 8 of them drop, and then they're like, I don't know, 5C a piece. So for the Scarab, yeah, like they're really cheap. It is super affordable way to get a 6 link.
I'm going to be really bummed when they get nerfed into the absolute ground because this league has made it too easy to do a bunch of things from the perspective of the developers. I
am hoping that's not the case because there needs to be an easy way to 6 link something.
I find your enthusiasm adorable, Bell.
I know.
That's not the game we're playing.
But anyway, so there was a bug until today where if you took an unidentified item and plonked it in the Beastcraft UI and used the craft to give it maximum number of sockets, it created items with more sockets than they were ever intended to have. Because apparently behind the scenes, all items socket lengths are determined by the size of the icon in your inventory. So some one-handed weapons, all quivers, could have 6 links.
All shields.
All shields could have 6 sockets and therefore 6 links. This created some craziness because like scepters and one-handed swords can also have 6 sockets under this scenario. So you could create a one-handed weapon with 6 sockets and give it a squire with 6 sockets. And if that weapon were a bitter dream that already has 6 pseudo sockets on it, you could have an 18 socket.
It's an 18 link.
Yeah, it was nonsensical. Like, there's no way anyone should have thought that this wouldn't have been immediately fixed. But of course, there were opportunists trying to sell these items for 200 divines at a time or multiple mirrors. And like there were folks that were under the false assumption that they would be allowed to go into standard, because apparently at some point in the past there was a bug that created an item that's a chess piece with like 25,000 increased fire damage, and it still exists in standard league. Anyway, but it was expediently patched out, and they're working on editing all the items that were created during that period of time that have the erroneous sockets. But it was hilarious for a little bit. I contemplated trying to do this with Bitter Dream and a Squire, but also didn't want to risk a ban. But I don't even know if I could have found 18 sockets that are like 17 support gems.
Work?
So Bitter Dream itself has 6 support gems in it.
Yeah.
So you can,
but you don't get to control what they are, right?
No, they're fixed. They're like all cold damage type stuff.
Yeah.
So the theory crafters were like, you could do this with a minion, because minions can have cold damage applied to them and therefore triggers, because basically like once you start adding support gems, the main gem inherits the tags of a lot of the gems underneath it. That's how Swift Affliction works on Righteous Fire, because Life Tap is giving Righteous Fire the duration tag. So the theory craft was that you could take like a Spectre and give it all the minion support gems and all the cold damage gems and create this monstrosity.
Huh.
It seemed like it would be hilarious to do just once. But again, no one in their right mind thought there would ever be a scenario where the existence of an 18 link is allowed in the game to stick around.
I don't know. Some people clearly did, and they were wrong, and they should feel wrong.
They should feel real dumb for assuming that would fly. But anyway, it was hilarious while it lasted. It was fun to watch like all these weird items coming out. But there were like thousands of them on the auction house or the trade site. So people were absolutely trying to profit from it.
Oh yeah, that's gonna get the bat real quick.
Yeah, I mean, like basically a streamer made it known that you could do this thing, and there was a land grab for about 8 hours while it took them to patch it.
Yep.
Because unfortunately, like that's kind of been the motto of Necropolis, is exploit early, exploit often. Because like a lot of these crazy profitable strategies have gotten stomped pretty quickly, but they did not claw back the gains that were created through weird scarab interactions and such. But like you can't have a bunch of obviously broken items existing around.
Yeah.
Because the 25,000 increased fire damage item that exists in standard was from a very, very, very long time ago, and I would like to think that they've learned lessons. Anyway.
Yikes.
So, Tam, your power went out, and you never got to talk about Fallout New Vegas.
Oh man, yeah. So like, okay, so the Fallout show is good. I think we had this conversation.
Yep, it is exceptionally good.
And it was kind of like, for a variety of reasons, I've sort of been like, hey, I'm looking for, I'm looking for a game to play. I'm looking for inspiration. I really want a relatively chill game, as far as like what it is asking of me. And there's very little like modern Fallout games to not ask very much of you. Wander around, do stuff, or don't. And I was like, I could boot up Fallout 4 again, but I played that recently enough that I still remember it. It's been a long time since I played New Vegas. Let's give that a go. And I liked it better than 3. And I was sort of curious if it still holds up. I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't get to talk about it previously, because the last time I was going to talk about this 2 weeks ago, it would have been an entire bit about me spending somewhere upwards of 12 to 15 actual real hours trying to get it to work. It's a trial.
What is taking so long with getting it to work?
Well,
what was the...
I mean, my experience was I installed it via Steam, where I own it, and hit play, and the button would change colors. It would sit for a moment, and it would turn back and say play again, which is not a very high information crash.
Yeah.
So I just I fought with that for a while, like uninstalling and reinstalling, putting it on a different drive, trying different things, but like I wasn't even getting the like options splash screen. And so after like 3 hours of poking at it myself, I did get the splash screen to come up. And then night 2, because by that time it's like after midnight, it's time for me to go to bed. Night 2 was, okay, I've managed to get it to the boot up launcher that lets you like set your graphics settings and stuff, because you can't actually do that in the game. You've got to do it pre-game. And the first thing that happened is I play on an ultra-wide monitor. That game does not support ultra-wide. It could not get to a screen that would let me see what it looked like, because when it would hit the main menu, it would just crash the desktop. So I laboriously solved that problem, and then went and tried to find some way of hacking in widescreen support, which got me to the main menu. At which point I would try to start the game and it would play the intro cinematics, and as soon as it tried to render anything, it would crash to desktop. With a new fun twist of it would also lock up my Windows, so I would have to like hard reboot. So this continued for a while until I finally found the Viva New Vegas site. Viva New Vegas is a site wholly dedicated to, so you'd like to play Fallout New Vegas on a modern rig. Follow all of these steps in order, and you'll have a working version. Please bear in mind, this will be a working vanilla version. So if you want any mods, that comes after, and that is going to introduce more potential instability. But this is how you get to a working individual version of vanilla.
Did one of those steps involve removing games for Windows?
No, but you don't launch it via Steam. I have a separate app that's that's Fallout Mod Organizer, that has side-loaded all of my data files and injects them into the launch of New Vegas, which it does via its own launcher.
Right. Yeah.
My New Vegas install has somewhere upwards of 80 mods. It was 78 of them were stability mods. Like just getting the game to function. I just followed Viva New Vegas directions to the letter. That took 2 nights. It was like 5 hours because I had to wait for stuff to download and etc. But I will say it worked flawlessly. Like by the time I had gone through every Viva New Vegas step, all like 26 pages of them. I had a fully functional, quite nice version of Fallout New Vegas. And from there, the additional mods that I added weren't a problem.
Right. Once you've got it capable of loading mods, it's not that bad of a scenario. But yeah, I mean, getting to that point, I think I still have my install sitting on a second drive because it was such a pain to get to that point that I just don't want to ever get rid of it.
It's a huge pain because it's not like modding Bethesda games normally is not like terrible generally.
Yeah, I got bad news for you. Have you tried Fallout 3?
Oh yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Fallout 3, I played through all of New Vegas and all of the DLC, which I'd never done previously. Fallout 3 was a lot less painful to get rolling.
Getting it up and running wasn't that big of a deal, but basically if you want to run any of the popular mods, you need to go through a process. You need to go through a process of downgrading your install to a version before 2022, I think.
Yeah.
In 2022, Bethesda updated the game, and none of the mods support it.
Everyone disliked that.
Yeah, so I was playing vanilla Fallout 3 because it was too much of a pain to get it up and running.
Yeah. So like here's the thing. I'm used to the old school of Bethesda mods where it's like drop the thing into your data files, turn it on in the menu, and go.
Yeah. And the problem is the problem is like the mod community grew out away from that and needed to do things that the base install wouldn't allow them to do. So all of these injection tools sprung up that like increase like the available memory to the game or, things like that couldn't have happened without, updates to the main game. Mm-hmm. But as a result, like there's this contorted order of operation that has to happen in order to get the game up and running.
Yeah, you have to like hire a Sherpa, but they'll get you there.
The InfoSec person in me loves hearing that this is all an injection vector.
Oh my god. Like some of the stuff straight up, some of the stuff that you are doing is you are downloading an executable, which is going to modify a different executable.
Awesome. Yeah.
Like there are mods here that have more text talking about how, yes, they are secure, yes, it's fine, than what the mod actually does.
Windows will, in fact, throw an exception, but it's fine. Just trust us. We promise.
Yeah, but it does work. There is the especially the New Vegas modding community, it seems, which is still fairly surprisingly active, is like aware of how unbelievably sketchy this all seems, and is like, I mean, Viva New Vegas is actually a very good guide, because even if you know nothing about anything modding wise, it talks you through it. It's like, here's what you're doing, here's why, here's the reason that you're installing this thing, here's the reason it needs to be installed in this particular order, this is what it does, can you skip it? Yes, no. This is what you can expect if you skip it. And so, so I finally got it all working, and like New Vegas holds up.
That was the thing that shocked me, was just how well even Fallout 3 holds up.
Yeah, like
sure, the models look a little wonky, and sure, the open world is a little Spartan, but like the actual game itself holds up. Like the quests are good, the voice acting is still good.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the Anakin Padme meme, and Fallout 4 also holds up, right?
It's fine.
So I hear it got patched.
It has been patched and now repatched.
Oh, has it been repatched?
I mean, not by Bethesda, but modders have caught up.
Okay.
Yeah, so the big problem, the reason that you have to downgrade Fallout 3 is because they launched an anniversary patch. Great. Anniversary patch breaks everything because it's a new binary. Fallout 4 released a anniversary patch that added a bunch of cool stuff to celebrate the show. Because like Bethesda's actually pretty on top of that sort of thing. As far as like, hey, opportunities to remind you that, hey, you could play our game again. They released a patch. It offered a bunch of new stuff. It broke everybody's game horribly because it wasn't really built for modern machines. I mean, it just sort of booted on my machine baseline, but it ran like absolute crap. It turns out that my very high-end graphics cards just choke and die on the game because it is not optimized for them in any sort of way at all.
Yeah, like the problem is they built this for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and then tried to downport the improvements graphically to PC without much testing, from what I could tell.
Yeah. But like the amount of modding that I needed to get Fallout 4 working was not egregious, frankly. It was fine. I mean, it was fine. Like, it vastly. I mean, I'm only running 17 mods, which, considering how like minimal some of these are, is not a ton. And several of these are like pretty significant. But like one of them is an improved map with more visible roads. That's a super lightweight mod as mods go. But yeah, like there's a bunch of stuff added. Somebody else, if you remember when we talked about Fallout 4 on the show, I was super, super frustrated with the ending. Like, I think we all were. I had a very specific frustration in that mild spoilers for a relatively old game that we spoiled heavily on the show years ago. But, like, I had sided with the Institute with the idea that I was going in there to reform it from the top because I was the new director. And then the game didn't let me do that. And then there's the bit where the other faction that I liked, the Railroad, has a bunch of stuff come out like right at the very end, depending on which way you approach it, that just like makes them mustache twirling evil for no apparent reason. Yeah. And in both cases, super frustrating.
They wanted you to have the hard pick where everyone's wrong, but like up until a moment, like you have sided with a faction not knowing that they are mustache twirling evil, and with zero evidence of them doing any of the mustache twirling evil stuff. It's very rough.
It's super frustrating. So there's a mod that's like, hey, we have put in a bunch of voice acting because apparently the Fallout modding community has just shocking access to like very good voice acting for some reason. Like better than I think any other mod community I've ever seen. But they're like, we made an alternate ending that's like, let's fix this. Let's give you the like power. Let's make the Railroad not mustache twirling evil, remove that stuff, and give them a slightly different ending. Let's change the Institute so that you can actually reform it. Like, sweet. So I'm gonna give it another play, see how that goes. Everything else is just like utility mods and stuff that I thought looked cool, but that's the one that I'm most interested in. But going back to New Vegas, the story holds up really well. I know a lot more about it than I did previously, and so you can shortcut various things, and it manages to not just like fall over and die if you do so, which is cool. Like there's a bunch of stuff that if you just do in a different order is like, nah, it's fine actually.
They are so good at letting you complete that game in so many different ways. I remember that from my first playthrough. I was like, how is this game even still functioning?
Yeah. Like, did you know that you can broker a truce between the Brotherhood of Steel and the NCR?
I didn't, but that doesn't surprise me.
And you can do it without siding with the NCR.
It's very funny.
It's incredible. Like, I was like, what?
Do you have to reform the Brotherhood?
No. It is vitally important that you don't.
Okay. So they're still sort of isolated. Is it brokering an alliance or just a truce?
It's actually basically an alliance, except that it's just with this sect of the Brotherhood of Steel.
Well, yeah, but like what I remember is this sect of the Brotherhood of Steel was like extremely isolationist. Like they were very internally focused. They thought anything outside was dangerous, and like treated their knights and squires with suspicion because they had been on the outside.
Yeah, no, like You can fix that. They do start going out into the world again. And like in my epilogue, because I went with the I am in fact the ruler of New Vegas epilogue. And in that epilogue, part of the way that I keep peace in the Mojave is the Brotherhood of Steel is doing patrols to help out. Like there's so many endings to that game. It's nuts.
It's ridiculous, yes.
It's also got really, really good DLC.
I haven't played any of it, and hearing you talk about it makes me want to go back and check it out.
I hadn't. It is 100% worth it. They have it's 3 wildly different pieces of DLC.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
they create some really interesting characters.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like plot hooks that they don't pay off in the main story that are like basically DLC plot.
Are you still playing as the courier in the DLC?
Yes. It's actually vitally important that you're still playing as the courier in the DLC.
So can you be playing through the DLC as like the ruler of Vegas?
Yes. This makes a difference. Like, not only can you do that, the game pays off those choices. And then when you're finished with the DLC, when it's relevant, it can pay back off in the base game. Not quite as much as I was hoping, but like way more than I was expecting. They're also just like, they're all wildly different, and they're wildly different from the base game. Like one of them is a heist that I think I liked the story. I found the gameplay like got kind of annoying because it is a strip you of all of your power DLC. And while that can work, I spent a lot of the time like this would be so much less dumb if I just had like my normal tools. But it's good. Like it's good. It introduces characters and it's got some pretty neat payoffs. There's that one. There's the one that's a love letter to Zion National Park, and it's fine. It pays off a particular story beat. I didn't care that much about that story beat, and I'm not quite as enamored of like some of the stuff that they were doing, but like it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible. I didn't hate it. It's not called Big MT. What is the actual name of that DLC? Old World Blues. Old World Blues is bonkers. Just like what? What is happening here? It's hilarious. It's legitimately both funny and crude in a way that I wasn't like expecting it to be crude. But like amusingly so.
Mm-hmm.
And it suggests it's got a thing that there's a surprising amount of in New Vegas, and possibly elsewhere that I'm noticing that like there's an undercurrent of maybe it's better that the bombs fell because we kind of deserved it.
I mean, the world was definitely heading in this direction that whole time.
Yeah, it was bad. Like you get more of a picture of like pre-war Fallout world, and like it's not just not good. It's like actively this is terrible for a shocking number of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rounded it out with Lonesome Road, which is all of the other DLC is building up to it, and it's a really cool payoff. And again, it's structurally very different from the other 3 DLCs. New Vegas has some just truly excellent content. And it was funny to me because I think that so much of it is because New Vegas just doesn't bother to do any of the things that the engine is good at, and instead fills it with writing.
Yes, which is what which is what Obsidian is good with, filling a game with writing.
Exactly, and like actually nailing endings for the most part, which is hard. Nailing endings is difficult, but it was one of those things. Like my comment on Bethesda games that comes up periodically is everybody's like, oh my god, Bethesda games, they're legendarily buggy. They're so buggy. And it's interesting because bug repro rates for Bethesda games are like a 10th, maybe less. of bug repro rates anywhere else I've seen, other than possibly MMOs. It's just that if you walk into a dining room in, Uncharted, that dining room is a room with textures on the wall and floor and ceiling, props, like a prop on a table that's like a single prop that's a table with a bunch of chairs and glasses and so on. And like maybe the chairs are physics objects, but they don't have any data.
Yeah.
You walk into a dining room in most Bethesda games, and every single thing on that table is a separate object with data attached to it and physics that you can manipulate as the player. So it's like, yeah, okay, so individual bug repro rates in Bethesda games are like way lower, but the number of times a bug could possibly be triggered is astronomically high.
Oh yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Fallout New Vegas like just doesn't bother doing a sim thing.
It just turns it all off, turns all those engine features off.
I mean, it's probably got some of it. I think like the caravan merchants wander around, and like there's some light radiant AI, but they're not doing very much with it. They're not like trying to interface it with scripting or anything. Not like Fallout 4. I was talking to Kodra about this last night because I booted it up and was playing it. Fallout 4, the opening like hour of Fallout 4, you leave the vault, you make your way to Concord, you run into the Minutemen for the first time, who are helping some refugees who tell you they're going to go back to your little planned community and make a settlement there. And I would say for the vast majority of people, that's basically, until they go back to Sanctuary, that's basically what you get. Sometime later, Sanctuary is a place with people and you can visit and talk to them. Did you know that they have an entire series of scripted conversations to and about one another and about the things they're seeing on the entire walk from Concord to Sanctuary?
Seems like a lot.
It looked like Belle was going to say something.
No, I followed them back to Sanctuary.
Yeah. They like thank you for doing so.
Yeah.
There's no quest for it, but they're like openly thankful that you like escorted them.
See, like I fell down the rabbit hole of I'm going to build Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not care about the main story at all for a long time in that game. So like I was learning about all the people that live in Sanctuary and like how they get along with the other people in Sanctuary and all the weird little side quests that they send you on. Yeah. Like, psychic lady needs a chair, so got to make her a comfortable chair.
See, Belle, you know how to play these games. I'm just an idiot who cares about the plot and story the game presents to me.
Oh, that's the least important thing.
I mean, the fascinating part about it to me is that in doing the side, like currently what I'm doing is I'm doing the side quests to help these people out. And in the process, I'm taking a completely different path through the game.
Yeah.
With its own story.
Like they want you to track down some potatoes so that they can plant the potatoes, and like it's its own other game. And the cool thing is like both experiences perfectly valid ways to play the game.
Yeah.
Like I'm way more likely to get lost in the hinterlands than either of you. But it's okay. I like being lost in the hinterlands.
Yeah. I mean, it works. And like I do tend to complete most of the map. Like I did fully complete the New Vegas map, even though I was mostly like beelining the main quest and like hitting side quests that I knew I hadn't done or like wanted to specifically do. But I'm like obsessively efficient. Like I am like targeted sweep and clear of every location. Partly because I keep inventory mods on, so I'm very cognizant of like caps per weight, and I don't bother picking up anything below a certain caps per weight threshold.
Yeah, and I'm the other side of this, and the first mod I install is one that disables any kind of encumbrance system.
Yeah, and if I did not have encumbrance in that game is what keeps me moving and not just like scouring everything for every possible piece of loot.
That's honestly the piece that makes playing Fallout 76 kind of miserable, is forced encumbrance, because that is a game where you absolutely want every test tube and, desk fan and whatever, because you need the resources that come from those. But like, you can't carry very many of them, so you spend forever trekking back and forth between your scrap box and whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought about doing another Fallout 76 like play through the story, because there was some good stuff in Fallout 76's story too.
It's wildly different now.
Yeah, and
like,
have you played it? Different now.
Have you played it since they added NPCs?
I mean, yes, but not meaningfully. Like, I logged into my high level, my I don't even know what level character I was, somewhere reasonably high, but not like.
Yeah, so I created
ridiculous.
a brand new character.
Yeah,
just because
what I should have done.
I could already tell that like this would have not been a meaningful experience if I had logged into a character that had already made it through the robotic version of the intro to the game.
Mm-hmm. So, like, that's what I should have done, and that might be next on the list. And it's been sort of the other piece of it for me is like it's an inspiring series because like I don't actually love post-apoc. I actually declined the chance to work on Fallout 76 because I was like I don't actually care that much about making a Fallout game. Like, I like to play them, but I'm just not really suited to writing or making content for them because I just don't like fundamentally get it. And I've been playing these from a like, all right, if I wanted to write something like this, like what are the essential pieces? And it's interesting to me how much, and it was something that I noticed in I've noticed in the show as well. It's interesting to me how much funny needs to be a part of it.
Yes.
Like, I have played the what if Fallout, but serious and gritty, and it's
terrible. It's called what is the rail shooter?
Metro. Yeah, Metro. Yeah, it's miserable. Like, it. Like, I think they think they're being funny, but no, it's not funny at all. It's just bleak.
Yeah, and like, and it's part of it is like it's got to be funny. It's got to be funny in a like lowbrow humor way too.
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit of slapstick and puns. They love puns.
Ooh, were you playing with Wild Wasteland on?
I have before. I didn't this time, but I did like basically I went on the wiki and saw like what are all the things that Wild Wasteland changes because I wanted to refresh my memory. And they're funny, but they're like a little bit over the top, but I like that they're there.
Yes, it's like, do you want this to be sillier?
Yeah. We couldn't
Do you really like Hunter S. Thompson?
Yeah. We couldn't decide if this was too silly. So we're gonna let you decide, and I feel like that's so indicative of.
I like that
vibe.
I like that it's got like tone scaling.
Yes, there's like a million. When I was looking at other mods to put in, there's like a million different mods, and so many of them are like more grit, more seriousness. I'm like, no. Which I'm going to use to segue to the other topic. In my playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, I downloaded Fallout New California, which is a New Vegas total conversion mod that is basically like a new Fallout story. Like they've done a total conversion mod that's a new Fallout story. And I wish I liked it more than I do. It is that it's one of those things, and it's like, I don't know, this is elitism on my part. But I can tell that this was made by fans, not so much professional game developers. Because it is hyper focused on a certain kind of thing, and it totally ignores other dramatically more important things. And as a result, like I was frustrated within 15 minutes of the tutorial, and that's just not where you want to be.
What were the things it was focused on?
It was really absolutely dedicated to making sure that you knew that they knew every little bit of Fallout lore. And so they were going to make sure that everything that they made fit perfectly into the Fallout setting, down to like nod and wink about specific years where things happened, so that you could know absolutely, without a doubt, that they did their research and they were Fallout historians. The prologue has something like 50 terminal entries that you can read, and that in fact, for at least 2 different quests, you have to read to get a vital piece of information to take to some other NPC. It's just like, here is the like giant textbook, history of this vault that you're in, and the concept behind the vault that you're in is that it's the vault that's supposed to experiment on people, help being, it's the vault that has a live feed into like 100 other vaults so that you can see the experiments playing out but can't do anything about it. Like, how is that gonna psychologically impact people? And like, as a conceit, that's not terrible, but it also is a framing device that basically allows them to have entries about every single other vault ever existing in Fallout canon. And then you start a quest and it doesn't have a quest marker. Go hit 3 switches here in the vault.
AKA the most important thing that you could add to the game is good, advisement.
Yeah. It is straight up, and an NPC tells you need to flip some switches. They're somewhere in the vault. Just go wandering around, pixel hunting over the walls until something that looks like a switch to you turns out to be interactable. And do this until the quest advances. I couldn't find a door to an area and had to like ask NPCs until luckily one of them did guide me. Like, one of them would like walk me over there, which I think is supposed to be the like the nod to player guidance, is that if you talk to the right NPC and ask the right questions, they'll walk over and show you the door that you need. But it adds nothing to the experience to just offer no guidance whatsoever.
This does sound like if somebody decided to make a Morrowind total conversion to really dig into the 36 lessons of Vivek.
Yes, but don't point you anywhere. And like, I don't even know if the story or writing is all that good. It's got surprisingly good voice acting. The voice acting's jokes are exclusively your character saying crude things or other characters making fun of your character, which is just not what Fallout humor is doing.
Yeah.
And it's such a bummer because, like, as mods go, the level of craft is shockingly high. Like, a total conversion mod is so hard to do. Like, it's an incredibly difficult thing to do. But it's just missing key. I mean, it is basically a coin flip whether you can beat the very first enemy you fight in the game. And then you got to go fight 3 more. It's just
for people who are already at 11.
Yeah. It is we talk about Path of Exile a lot, and it makes me feel like so many Path of Exile patches that are like, oh, this is for people who just aren't me. This is for people who are like so bought into this and bought into, I strongly suspect that there's a significant contingent of the modding team there that is like, we want this to feel more like Fallout 1.
Yes. And that's kind of what it was sounding like with Fallout 1 does not direct you to the quest. You have to go and talk to people. They tell you where to go. And then you go and do what they say, and it leads to a dead end, which is definitely a choice and is definitely where I stopped playing Fallout 1.
But Fallout 1 did that in part because of the age of game that it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how much of that was a conscious choice. Yeah. They were all that way. Go back and play Baldur's Gate 1.
Yeah, exactly. And
it was obtuse as hell.
Yeah, it's telling that the same people who made those games went on to make games with really good, here's how you get to places. Given full reign of how to do things, Chris Avallone made a game that directly pinpoints you to where you need to go at every step of everything.
I think that this is back to a very age-old conversation, which is about usability and immersion. And
Yes.
you know what's immersive? Getting completely lost, because not everything has a clean and neat solution. But like, if I'm really immersed, then I'm gonna go back to town and like be like, hey, I couldn't find the vault you pointed me to. It was abandoned. There was no chip there. If I'm not fully bought in by that point, I'm just exiting the game. So I'm either incredibly attached or completely detached.
Yeah. And you need to, that is why a modern game is like, oh, you get to the bottom of that vault and your quest updates and says, wait a minute, there's nothing here. Well, what do I do now? Like, it's what that's for.
Clearly, more games need to just go with the solution that Disco Elysium has and have your inner thoughts start poking you and prodding you in different directions.
Oh man, like that works so well.
It does. Like, it keeps you, because like, you, even if you are fully isolated, you're always there with your thoughts. And if your thoughts can become NPCs, then it can guide you in directions without feeling like the game is handholding you.
Yeah. Because honestly, like when people feel like they're being overly handheld by a game, it's because the game is telling them something they already knew and probably has done it at least once before. But it's really interesting, like if you get a bunch of people together and ask them to pinpoint, ask them like, tell me if this game is handholding you too much. And if so, pinpoint where it's handholding you too much. Even if every single person says it's handholding you too much, they all will say different things.
Yep.
It's like which thing is the I already knew this, you're telling me too many things. But yeah, I also put in a bunch of like other, smaller content mods with just, characters with stories and so forth. And like those were actually, some of those were really good. And just like interesting, funny stuff. I'm actually not entirely sure how they managed to get. I played with one mod that came highly recommended. That was Willow, a companion, who is a sort of additional companion that sits apart from your other ones. But she'll like chat with your other companions, and like they'll have exchanges. And I don't know how they did that without getting new lines from the other companions.
Just got really good voice. Well, was Willow a cut companion?
No, completely new companion.
Because that could have been it. Like if it was a original companion, like in the core files, but was cut for like some reason.
Well, but the base game only allows you to have one companion with you.
Oh, interesting.
So there's
how do any of the companions have dialogue with each other?
They don't. This mod introduces this companion having dialogue with other companions.
Well, then, yeah, that must just be some people coming up with some really good voice acting.
I guess it's gotta be. It was shockingly good. Just like that. I mean,
the Fallout roleplay community is huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. Like, it wouldn't super shock me if they had managed to. Well, I don't think they would have, because it's Felicia Day who voices Veronica.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that a Fallout mod is not going to be able to like get Felicia Day to come down and record some lines. I have no idea. Like, I genuinely was like, oh, I have no idea how that's done. And like, I don't want to rag on Fallout New California. It's just like, I wish it had spent more time on. It needed a producer. It feels like it needed a producer, because it's like, I mean, it's the kind of thing that I see on professional design teams too, where you have like, oh, hey, this is a designer that like, I really, really, really want to spend the next 6 weeks fleshing out this brilliant character and their background. And it's like, what if the player decides to blow off the main quest and just follow this character around for the next 6 hours? I want that person to be paid off. It's like, well, admirable, but that's not actually what we need to do here.
Yeah.
But it's like I see the impetus for it. And it's where it's why I've been like, I kind of want to play a bunch of these. I had the idea. I was inspired by the show to be like, oh, I could do a Fallout tabletop RPG. And I feel like a Fallout tabletop RPG would let you hit the New Vegas notes really well because you can kind of craft the things on the fly based on what players want to do. And so I was like looking at, different kinds of inspiration for it. But yeah, being able to like respond to what a player wants to do versus either, railroading them into a particular thing or, forcing them to play the way you want them to. Say, fine, you like that character? We can go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You hate that person that you're supposed to like? Well, we're gonna roll with it. But yeah, I've been shocked at how well Fallout holds up. And like possibly controversially, Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4 hold up a heck of a lot better than Fallout 1 and 2 do.
Oh yeah, well.
Oh, without question. But like a lot of the problem with Fallout 1 and 2 are technologically related.
Yeah, like I get that they were new. The idea of playing in a post-apocalyptic video game was pretty new. Like post-apoc as a genre was not that old when they were made. So like they're novel for the time. But I think that Fallout 3 and on are just better games. Even with the kind of uneven writing that you get in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, they hit the experience notes just much better. As they should, but
Metroidvania Roundup. You've been playing a bunch of Metroidvanias, Kodra.
I have. I have played. So Ash, like a couple, maybe last time, was talking about how he's been doing a lot of roguelike reviews, like wanting to play more, mostly deck-based roguelikes, but roguelike games in general. I was like, I have another genre of game I really like, and I haven't looked at what's come out. The one game I was most interested specifically hasn't yet come out, which was it's a stealth-based Metroidvania, which I'm kind of excited for. But I decided to go and see, hey, what Metroidvanias have come out and take a shot at them. So I have played the first act of Zao, Z-A-U, which has a different name, but I can't remember it. The first boss of Ender Lilies, and then the demo for Tevi. These are all pretty great, actually. Probably my favorite currently is Ender Lilies. It's definitely going for the more gothic vibe. Like, it's got that Soulsian feel. The gimmick here is that you are playing the priestess, who is this little girl who has a bunch of spirits, and she's basically helpless, but the spirits can like come to life and attack for her. So your basic attack is this knight who like is a ghost knight and like appears behind you and slashes his sword whenever you press the attack button. You have a dodge roll, which is like you helplessly like falling forward. It's very funny. And you have a bunch of other ghosts that you're going to pick up over time that give you other special attacks. The game's movement is a little awkward still. Like, I just got double jump, and I'm still a little bit awkward about, like, I don't love the movement yet. It's definitely not winning tons of points for that. But the game is charming. The map design is really well. It's doing some of the good Metroidvania things, where like I'm seeing bits that I know I'm gonna like. I don't know how I'm supposed to get there, but I guess at some point I'll figure out like what is the solution to these puzzles. They've also got a sequel that is coming out somewhat soon. Gonna play more of this one. I really like the character designs. I really like how the like actual moment combat feels. I just wish movement was a little bit more interesting, but movement is frequently something that gets better as you get a more fleshed out power set. On the other hand, you've got Zao, Z-A-U, which is got just an incredibly great movement set right off the bat. You've got like your main jump, but then like a slight more horizontal than vertical double jump right now to start. You've got a number of early unlocks that you get and that make movement feel really good. The biggest problem I have with this game is it kind of feels like it's almost trying to subvert a lot of Metroidvania map design. Like one of the things that is sort of classic to the genre is, as opposed to a game like a Mario, instead of immediately going right and always going right, it usually makes a lot of sense for you to start by going left. Like that's a thing that happens in the first Metroid. Like the bombs are to the left instead of to the right. It's trying to get you in this exploration mindset. In this game, if you go left, like immediately you're basically told, yes, there is something to the left, but that's not the right way. You're not supposed to be doing that. And then you go through the entire first zone, and basically you fully complete everything in that zone, and there's doesn't feel like there's any reason to ever go back there. Like I've found all of the stuff that I need to find in these zones. There's no like adjoining area that'll bring me back to this area. Which
that doesn't feel very Metroidvania.
Yes, that was my takeaway. It does not feel as Metroidvania as a map. But also one of the biggest complaints people have with Metroidvanias is you feel like you're just backtracking all of the time, right? And so like if that's your complaint with Metroidvania, I really recommend checking out Zao. It also has just an incredible story going on. Like I do like the story quite a bit, even if your character's life motto seems to be live and don't learn.
A classic.
It's like there's very obviously a lesson that is being imparted upon you at the end of the first boss, and your character is dedicatedly not learning it. Just keep trucking along on all of the mistakes they are currently making. But whatever, it's a story about dealing with grief, told through like it's very interesting. Like the meta story is that this is a story that you are reading from a book a la like Princess Bride that your father left you after he died. And like the external story is like you're a character in some Afrofuturistic city, and then the primary story is like a old parable about a African shaman who is refusing to deal with the death of his father. And
a lot of layers.
Yeah, a lot of layers. And like you're basically doing this quest on behalf of the god of death in hopes that you will be able to be reunited with your dead father, or that your dead father will be allowed to come back to the living, which like
that never goes well.
No, like the art is great. I want to go back and play this game, but like it doesn't feel like a Metroidvania to me because of the map. And that's why I sort of stopped playing it. I'll probably go back and play more of it because it is very fun. And the combat's very creative. This is one of those games that does a good job of getting me to switch in and out of different stances, which is saying something because I'm a type of person who likes to find a first order optimal strategy and stick with it.
First order optimal strategy is switch stances.
Clearly. And then the other one is Tevi. I've only played the demo of it. You're playing a cute little like bunny girl. The movement feels okay. The combat feels okay. It feels fine. I kind of want to give it more of a chance. The art style is very cute. It is apparently the second Metroidvania from this studio, who seems to mostly make Metroidvania and shmups, and you will not be surprised to find out I was recommended this game by Ashkar.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But yeah, I like Metroidvanias, and it's been fun getting to play some again. I sort of dig myself out of the ARPG hole I was in.
Yeah, that's the I completely get it. Like it's not Metroidvanias, but like it's the me wandering around a big Fallout world.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about loading up Skyrim. I'm just not feeling Swords and Sorcery at the moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I just played Cyberpunk recently.
I need to get back in, and I need to try Cyberpunk at some point. I imagine I will very much enjoy it. I need to be in the right mood.
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like playing a Deus Ex game, it is now at the point where I'm like, yep, it's like Deus Ex with better writing.
Nice.
And an absolutely unhinged obsession with diegetic cutscenes.
That's very funny.
They decided that they needed that to work, and so they made it work. And honestly, I'm impressed. There's something that comes out soon. I feel like I was waiting for something to come out, and I've completely lost the thread on games that are coming out.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I am taking away from playing Metroidvanias right now is these games are hard. These games are deceptively difficult to make. And
oh my God, yeah.
I deeply feel for Team Cherry, who it's impossible for us to know how much of what parts of Hollow Knight were a natural talent on their part to know how to create a excellent game, and how much was just luck. And I wonder if they are just playing through release candidate after release candidate of Silksong and be like, yeah, this doesn't have the magic. What's going wrong? Why doesn't this game feel as good as the first game we released, the best version of this extremely difficult game to get right?
Yeah.
It also kind of made me wonder or want to go back and see about playing release Hollow Knight, because I also don't know how much of Hollow Knight is they added incrementally onto it once they saw how the players reacted to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing that's really hard, because right now Hollow Knight's in just such a good spot, but is that just because they were able to react to seeing how players played it, or was the initial release of it that good as well?
Yeah. And man, part of me is I suppose Team Cherry, I don't know how big Team Cherry is. I suspect that they're not of the I suspect that they're not of the size where they can just give up on jobs as a concept. But how do you know which thing of everything in the game, which thing was the thing that was the magic, and then what do you change? Because you can't not change anything. You can't release Hollow Knight 2 and have it just be the same as Hollow Knight with a new map and and story.
I mean, that this is the interesting thing. They do at least have a guiding star of what they're going to do. One of the characters you see the most move sets out of is the character you're going to play.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's the thing, is that's the thing they're choosing to change.
Yes. So is the fact that the Knight's move set was just so smooth the secret sauce to Hollow Knight? Maybe. It's really good. I will tell you, none of the games I played felt good as using the Knight's move set.
Yeah. And I've looked at Hornet's moveset because I've heard when the last time I played through it, I was like, all right, I know Silksong is a thing that people are talking about. Can you make a move? Does this seem like a reasonable moveset? And I'm like, kinda.
It kind of does. It seems like it would be really cool, but it also seems like it would be a lot harder to control.
Well, it seems like it would be really cool, and part of what makes it seem like it's really cool is she's better than you. She is faster and more mobile and just as strong as you are. So you need to then turn that into a separate game. Everybody loves being overpowered, but you can't make a game about that. So how much of that moveset is scalable and incrementally scalable?
I mean, the other solution would be to make sure that all of the enemies you are encountering are amped up as well. But that just puts it even more and that's one of the things I'm seeing, a lot of enemies with helmets where being able to attack them from above, which is definitely going to be her strongest moveset because she's very aerial and acrobatic.
Yeah.
Try and work that against her.
Well, but then does that moveset seem as cool when it's not obviously strong?
Yes. Great questions.
It's a huge challenge. Like, I would, I think I would almost prefer to work on a straight platformer than a Metroidvania.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you have a basic thing that you absolutely have to nail.
There are so many fundamentals to Metroidvanias that you have to nail. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because you have to, movement has to feel good, fighting has to feel good, the layout has to feel good,
Progression has to feel good.
Progression has to feel good, yeah.
Navigation has to feel good.
Yeah.
Like, independent of movement, your navigation has to feel good. And like, I've said it before, like, I don't think Hollow Knight had good navigation.
Yeah.
But also, it's designed around not having that good navigation.
Yep.
So, like, how much of that is sauce and how much of that is vital?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell.
Making games is hard, yo.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it always seems to be a thing that folks struggle with on the second game because the special sauce that the studio may think is the reason why it's fun isn't always the reason people found it fun.
Clearly, you should only release your second game in a very localized setting. Replace it with reskin a completely different game and call that your second game, and then pull together an absolute dream team of developers for your third. That's the secret sauce. I mean, it's one of those things like when even like Mario screwed up its second release.
I mean, to be fair, I liked the janky, weird, reskinned version Mario 2.
Sure, but that's not what Mario 2 was developed as.
Right. The extra hard levels version of Mario 2, yeah, no, I didn't like that.
Nobody
I enjoyed
that.
I enjoyed the weird throwing eggs at people.
Sure.
Game.
Yeah, it's so hard to get right. I mean, it's so hard to get right when you have something that's like, even if it's not unique, an exemplar of the genre.
Well, I mean, look at Diablo 4 right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of fumbling towards a game design that may work, but I also feel like that is a game that did not understand what made its predecessors enjoyable. But like, thankfully, it's has the ability to patch itself into a state where maybe it's going to be okay. But like, I kind of feel like a Silk Song doesn't have that much leverage.
Yeah.
And that last topic is probably going to get bumped unless it's a really quick one.
I had a quick topic we skipped over, I think.
Oh, we did?
Yeah,
Strawberry Jam.
Yeah, because
that showed up on the list.
Sorry. We wanted to, because Tam was talking about how Total Conversion Mod should have producers. Strawberry Jam, Total Conversion Mod, has producers. It definitely helps. I'm here to say, having a production team helps. Keeps things focused. Anyways, I beat where I am happy with. I beat the middle tier of levels in the expert lobby, which was very challenging. Most of the maps took me about 4 hours to beat. And they were probably on average 8 to 10 rooms. So that's a pretty significant amount of time. And I was definitely starting to feel the difficulty biting back at me, things getting harder. And I kind of made the call a while ago that I wanted to wrap these up and then move on to something else rather than throw myself into even more frustrating maps. So now I'm going to play more Celeste and I'm going to play not Strawberry Jam stuff for a bit. But I got to say, Strawberry Jam, it's been really good. It's got a lot, even the yellow maps, even the difficult stuff, there were some I didn't love, but most of them were still fun and exhilarating as you were playing them and constantly just slowly inching your way closer to victory. And really, really fun getting to look back and see the progression. I very much appreciate that this game has decided to put in basically 16 different gradations of difficulty so that given that you are somebody who has beaten the base game of Celeste, there is at least something for you to check out in Strawberry Jam.
That's cool.
And some of the early, like the easy beginner lap, the green beginners are also really fun. Like some of my favorite maps are still from the green and yellow beginner maps. Beginner
I
lobby.
finished, I think, B-sides.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was sort of like where I felt like I was done with Celeste, but...
Yeah, most of the difficulty of the beginner lobby is A-sides and the very first B-sides. Like the first 2 B-sides is what they say. That's the difficulty you're dealing with. From a mechanical perspective, there are certain levels that have more of a puzzle application, and they are definitely more of a cerebral exercise than what you would find in like a game, the normal Celeste game.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's an entire level which is about trying to figure out how to build a setup so that your character can, like, without difficulty jump through a pixel perfect gap. Because like if you jump against a wall and the wall just lines you up perfectly with the gap below you, then yes, you are able to fall without actually aligning yourself to a pixel perfect gap. The wall aligns you to the pixel perfect gap. So it's like, how do I build that setup becomes the puzzle.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, it's great. And they just actually did the 2023 Celeste Awards, which was like a whole award show and everything. So I'm checking out a lot of the winners that I haven't played, which are most of them because I've mostly been in Strawberry Jam. Although Strawberry Jam, like overall and individual levels in Strawberry Jam, did win a lot of awards. And my favorite map didn't win any because the person who wrote it intentionally took them out of the themselves out of the running, because they were, I don't know why they did this, but it definitely felt like they could have run away with the awards otherwise. If there's only one map you play Paint in the beginner lobby.
Paint.
Yes. It is, as the person who was working on the sound of it described, it's basically something that definitely shouldn't exist. Do you remember the cassette blocks in the base Celeste game? How like they would turn one way or another with the like beat of the very simple song?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody put a very good soundtrack into that system and have these blocks moving with a very impressive soundtrack. But like they had to code all of that into this like specific system, because now you can't just like overlay a background music to your level because the level is reacting to the music itself. So you have to put it all in engine. It's nuts. It sounds so good. It's my favorite song in the whole thing.
That's pretty impressive.
Yes. It definitely has a lot of meticulous artistic detail going on. And then it's a really fun level. Unsurprisingly, about dealing with anxiety of being overwhelmed by this art project you're working on. It might have been a little autobiographical.
What?
Video games? Art being about the creation of the art itself? Who'd have thought?
There's definitely no music like that ever.
Or movies.
That's probably a show.
That's a show.
Hopefully everyone enjoyed our short number of folks talking show, because I think next week we will probably have significantly more people, but like it's been a while since we've had one this intimate, for lack of a better term. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
See you.